Oh, would you look at that? That's insane. Oh, yeah. Aloha, and welcome to this week's video. So this week I'm going to be working on a new leo mano, which is the Hawaiian blade. A leo mano is a term used for just about any weapon that has shark teeth on it. But when talking about a traditional leo mano, it kind of has one overarching design, and it's the paddle with shark teeth that go around the outer edge. And then on the handle side, there's usually some type of spike or pahoa, a dagger, some type of end on the other side of it. Now I'm going to be making actually a little bit more of a commonly found item in artwork. You see this style of piece all the time, and ironically enough, I've actually never made this style of piece. So I've made style of pieces like this before that utilize marlin bills rather than just the entire piece made out of wood. But this time I'm going to be making both the blade, the front end of the leo mano, and the dagger, the pahoa side of it, all out of the same piece of koa. And for koa, I picked this piece here. It's an absolutely gorgeous piece of wood. It's been sitting in my workshop now for quite a while, and I've been wanting to use it for a piece. I just wasn't sure what, and I decided to go ahead and make a more traditional style leo mano out of it. Man, does it have some insane curl. Even before I sanded it down, just that initial finish on the top was absolutely gorgeous. So this first step, after drawing it out, cutting it out, I'm rough shaping it in. It is kind of a thicker piece of koa. It's a little bit too thin for me to cut it in half and get two sections out of it. So it's good and bad. It's bad in that I get a lot of waste on the piece. It's good in that I can use it for thicker pieces. So part of the reason why I haven't made one of these yet is because the pahoa side of it, the dagger side of it, is out of wood. You want to make sure the wood's pretty thick so that you have a nice stout dagger end to it. And then the lashing on this piece goes straight through the handle. So that's what that hole is that I drilled there. It's actually not going to have feathers like I normally do with the leo mano. Instead, this piece is going to have just a single cordage that you would wrap around your hand, which would actually be more traditional. There are some pieces that utilize feathers as functional part of the weapon. So like an ihe. An ihe is a short spear. The ihe might have decorative feathers towards the tip of the ihe, but the main purpose of that is less decoration and actually more because it helps keep blood off of the runoff from getting the main body of the spear wet, so it doesn't become slippery. So it actually has function. On the leo mano though, it's not usually it's just a simple wrap for the cordage to hold on to your hand with. So once I have it shaped down to size, now I'm going to be sanding it in. You saw me there. I cut out the grooves for the tiger shark teeth that I'm going to be using, and I used my tungsten carbide bit to cut out those grooves. I am going to be rounding out or smoothing out the edge here, so you can see me. I'm flaring out the ends. I'm doing that for a couple of reasons. One is because I don't want it to have such a sharp edge against the cordage. And two, when I go to actually set the cordage in place, one end of it's going to be lashed really thick, and that's going to just wedge itself into that slot. And you'll see that here in a little bit. But having a flared out end on both sides will act as both a spot for me to wedge and preventing it from having a hard edge for it to cut into that cordage on. And then for the groove here, I'm doing the same thing that I do on most of my pieces. I put a small amount of epoxy mixed with wood shavings, and then I set the teeth into place, and then I come back with this wire brush here to clean off any excess epoxy that was there. The primary purpose of the epoxy is really just to help hold it in place while I drill the teeth with my tungsten carbide bit here, and then when I go to drill the actual paddle, the blade side, the wooden side of the paddle. My camera kind of cut out on part of this. So to mark it, I just use that spacer, and then I pre-tap the hole with a nail. Makes it just easier for me to drill straight down. and then I go ahead and I drill all those holes all the way around. If I had a drill press, it'd be a lot faster. That's where my camera cut out, so you won't get to see the rest of the drilling, but it's kind of boring, so it doesn't matter. Now, I don't normally sand my pieces to 800, but man, the grain on this koa wood was absolutely gorgeous. And so for this piece, I just had to sand it down. And so I'm hand sanding it first with a 400 grit and then now with the 800 grit. And that's just to get it prepared to oil. And man, was I excited to oil this piece. It is an absolutely gorgeous piece. The koa wood here it's almost like flame, like waves of flame, the curl. In fact, that's a descriptive word that gets used for certain types of curl and certain types of color of grain is like a flame curl. But this piece was just absolutely beautiful. I loved the coloration of it. It was kind of a very continual color all the way through. The lights were all the same color. The darks were all the same color. Just an absolutely gorgeous piece. Oh my gosh, I just love this piece. I can't wait to make a piece out of the other side, the wood that I have left from this. Absolutely gorgeous. What's really interesting too is you can see on both sides, it's not the same curl pattern. On one side is a slightly different curl pattern than the other, even though it's the same continual grain from top to bottom. That probably has to do with where out of the tree this piece of koa came from and where that compression was happening. But it's just kind of interesting how you don't get the same patterns even on the same piece of wood from one side to the other. Now I'm going to be lashing in the teeth. I don't know if I've showed this process here in a long time, so I thought I'd go ahead and do a close-up. The pattern I'm doing on this is a very simple pattern. It's a triangle pattern. The triangle in Hawaii has a lot of meaning, actually has a lot of meaning in a lot of different cultures, but in Hawaii it also symbolizes shark teeth. And so as I wrap back and forth, it creates kind of a triangle or that zigzag shape that goes back and forth. And then I'm doing just a single ply on these teeth. I've done a few other lashing patterns, but I think this method is my most common. It's a little bit faster, a little bit easier, and it holds really tight, so it works well. So with the cordage, I'm not going to be wrapping it all the way around. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm wrapping the end of it on itself, and then I'm lashing that together, so it creates a really thick end. And then I'm going to be pulling that tightly through that hole that I drilled. So the purpose of that is to both hide that lashing, that section, and as well to lock it into place. And so that's why I kind of flared out the wood, so that it would sit in there nice and tight, and at the same time I can kind of hide that into the koa. So here is the finished piece. Man, was this just an absolutely gorgeous piece. Now this is just inside of my workshop. I will be taking it outside and looking at it from there as well. But an absolutely gorgeous piece. It's very simple. Sometimes the simple pieces I think are the most beautiful. You can see here how you'd wrap that around your hand, that cordage, and that would enable you to hold on to it. And then again in the natural light, and you can really see the curl and the flame come out on that. Oh my gosh, that is insane. I love this piece. Mahalo nui for everyone that has followed along with me thus far. I am very, very happy and pleased that I get to share my art with everyone, and that people actually find it somewhat interesting. I also appreciate all of the idea suggestions. Some of them I do utilize. I have some pretty awesome videos coming up, some new projects that I'm going to be working on that I'm very excited for. And so I'm excited to keep going and having a fun with this. Again, mahalo plenty. If you liked it, go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment below, and I'll see you next time. Aloha.